Welcome to this edition of the Head to Head Podcast. I'm your host, Cam McKinney. This is episode number 107 of the podcast. And in this edition of the podcast, I'm talking about the most polarizing topic in sports right now. The New England Patriots signing quarterback Cam Newton. There is not two people on planet Earth that have the same opinion on this signing. One guy will tell you this is the move that will save the Patriots from a rebuild. Another man will tell you this is the worst signing of the offseason, and that he'd rather Jared Stidham be the quarterback for the Patriots moving forward. Here are the details of the contract. Cam Newton signs a 1-year, $1.1 million, only $550K of that is guaranteed with the Patriots, which could climb to $7.5 million with incentives that he will probably never reach, knowing what the Patriots have done with incentives in the past. Those incentives are always seemingly impossible for a quarterback to reach. Even Tom Brady couldn't get his fully incentivized deals. The group of people that are utterly shocked that the Patriots would do this surprise me. The Patriots quarterback group right now is Brian Hoyer and Jared Stidham. Brian Hoyer once threw 5 interceptions in a playoff game, and Jared Stidham is an enigma up until this point. We know nothing about him. We think Jared Stidham is good because the Patriots have Jared Stidham. That's the only reason any of us think of him as good. I've also heard some people over the last few days say Jared Stidham is a mobile quarterback like Cam Newton. That is ridiculous. Maybe in college football where everyone is running around like they're Superman and they can get 1,000 yards a season. In the NFL, you don't know if Jared Stidham is going to be able to run at that level. Maybe he will be, but to even slightly compare him to being a mobile quarterback like Cam Newton is utterly and totally ridiculous. My thoughts on the situation in a perfect world, the Patriots are using Cam Newton as a bridge quarterback, but if he does play out of his mind, he can become the real guy. And why wouldn't that be the circumstances? Cam Newton at his full potential probably has more potential than Jared Stidham. Yes, I believe that. If Cam Newton returns to that MVP form, that guy that led the Panthers to the Super Bowl, I don't think that's going to happen, but you can't tell me that if that does happen, the Patriots should move on from that guy and go to Jared Stidham right away. No, I would want the Patriots to sign Cam Newton long term if he returns to that guy from his MVP season. If that's the case, if he does return to that guy, there's no one on this earth who should think that they should make Jared Stidham their franchise quarterback. It should be Cam Newton. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. I think Cam Newton is a bridge to someone else. Maybe it's Jared Stidham, maybe it's not. But Cam Newton is only 31 years old, and there are other examples of mobile quarterbacks having great second acts of their career. Michael Vick with the Eagles, he returned to the Michael Vick that he was with the Falcons after years of not playing football. Randall Cunningham with the Minnesota Vikings completely balled out, and that Vikings team we all think is the best team to never win a Super Bowl. If Cam Newton bounces back like those two guys did in the past, this is an absolute steal of the offseason for the Patriots. This is a risk worth taking because the reward is so high, and the risk is what? You lose $550K? Like, that's nothing. This is absolutely worth the risk. And it's absolutely a better solution than signing Andy Dalton or signing Jameis Winston, because at those two best, they are nowhere near the level of Cam Newton. Now, if Cam Newton reaches his best, he is a star franchise quarterback. That is his ceiling. Those other two ceilings are average at best. So I don't think anyone's talking about this. Cam Newton has not played with a receiver as elite as Julian Edelman since maybe the early days where he played with Steve Smith. I mean, the wide receiver group that Cam Newton played with the Panthers is pathetic. Like, the second best receiver he played with this time with the Panthers is like Devin Funches. Now, again, he has N'Keal Harry. You don't know what that guy is, but you do know about Julian Edelman, and Cam Newton has not played with a slot receiver at that level before. And there are these people that think the Patriots could have won 8 games with Brian Hoyer. So you're telling me if Cam Newton is healthy, they can't easily win 10 to 12 games? This should raise the expectations for the Patriots season if Cam Newton is the starting quarterback and if he's healthy. Also, this makes the Patriots worth watching. Like, there's an actual storyline to pay attention to. I'm sorry. I think the Jared Stidham storyline is kind of boring to see the next guy who could be Brady. I'm sorry. But to see Cam Newton try to bounce back after being rejected by the rest of the NFL, that's a storyline I find interesting. That's a network game. Like, I want to see Cam Newton go up against his old team, the Panthers, at some point. I mean, come on, people. This is a former MVP and maybe the greatest rushing quarterback of all time being rejected from the rest of the NFL. That is must-see TV. If he wreaks havoc against the league, he is looking for vengeance this year, and it's going to be totally worth the watch. And when you talk about Jared Stidham and people wanting to see him, I think a lot of people have like blind faith in Jared Stidham as a quarterback because of their faith in Bill Belichick. They believe because Bill Belichick found Tom Brady that he can find any guy that you don't think is very good and turn him into a franchise quarterback. I think that is ridiculous. I think Tom Brady is a once-in-a-generation guy who, by accident, kind of turned into the greatest quarterback of all time. So to think that Bill Belichick can do that again with Jared Stidham, I'm sorry, I'm not on board with that. What I'm saying also is I'd rather him reinvent the career of Cam Newton than to start the career of Jared Stidham. I think that's far more fascinating. If he can turn around the career of somebody who was once thought of as the best player in football for a year, I mean, that's fascinating. Like, if Bill Belichick is that good of a coach, shouldn't he be able to fix the career of Cam Newton? Now, all of Cam Newton's issue is with health. So if Cam Newton returns to form, Bill Belichick should be able to have success with Cam Newton. Like, can Bill Belichick turn his style of football into Cam Newton's style of football? I think that's far more interesting than this blind goose chase to find the next Tom Brady, which is never going to happen. I think this means the Patriots are going to be so much more of a first-run team moving forward with Newton in the group of running backs they have. Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead. I mean, these guys are going to be why the Patriots are good or why the Patriots are bad. I mean, Sony Michel has to have a bounce-back season this year for the Patriots to be good. I think whether or not whoever the quarterback is, I think Sony Michel needs to be the guy that we saw in that Super Bowl season during that playoff run. If he turns into that guy, then the Patriots are real contenders. If he's the guy from last year, I think the Patriots will be bad no matter what, if Cam Newton balls out or not. I also want to talk about the teams that said no to Cam Newton, who I think are being utterly ridiculous. The Broncos, the Jaguars, and the Chargers. What are you guys doing? All three of those teams should have taken a chance on Cam Newton to be their starting quarterback because it would have been at an affordable price. Especially the Jacksonville Jaguars. You'll spend so much money on Nick Foles, it won't work out. You'll trade him to the Bears. You need a quarterback desperately, and you won't spend $1 million on Cam Newton, where if that turns out right, for once in your life, it looks like you've made a good decision at the quarterback position. You've had Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, Blaine Gabbert, and Nick Foles the last few seasons at the position. Cam Newton is so much more of an upgrade over all of those people. Even if he's half of the guy he was with the Panthers, that's a huge upgrade at the position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are a disgrace of a franchise for not at least taking a minor risk and having Cam Newton at least compete to be the quarterback. The same with the Broncos. You had success with Peyton Manning, who was on his second leg of his career. Cam Newton is only 31 years old. If you resurrect his career, you could have that next franchise guy. John Elway has never established a young quarterback's career. He's never done that. The only time he ever had success with as an executive is to get a free agent quarterback. You'd think he would at least try to do that again and not be Joe Flacco. Go out there and get Cam Newton. You should have done it. You made a mistake. As for what this does for the Patriots, like, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think it makes them Super Bowl contenders right off the bat. Like, I think you need to see what you have in Cam Newton. I don't know if he's going to be half the Cam Newton, 75% of Cam Newton, or 100% of Cam Newton, which of course would be the best case scenario. I don't know what the Patriots have in Cam Newton. He wasn't that great the last time I saw him on the football field, and I don't know if he can be that rushing quarterback like he was before, or has his body taken taken too much of a beating to be that guy. I mean, maybe there is a real reason why all these teams rejected him. But I'll go out on a limb and say if the Patriots win 10 to 12 football games, it will be with Cam Newton as their starting quarterback. They won't do it with Jared Stidham or Brian Hoyer. If they are going to be a good football team this year, Cam Newton will have to be their starting quarterback and have to be at a Pro Bowl level like he used to be. I understand Patriots fans who hate this idea of bridge quarterbacks, but you only hate that idea because for the last 20 years, you never had to experience that because you've had Tom Brady the last 20 years. There have been some pretty good successes with bridge quarterbacks in this division. Chad Pennington with the Dolphins. The Dolphins had their absolute best year when they went out inside Chad Pennington. They were a really good football team. People seem to love the mystery of whether or not the young guy can play. I mean, we've seen this with Patriots backups before with Ryan Mallett, Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Stidham. We obsess over their talent because, Bill sees something in them. Other fan bases and franchise don't fantasize about the play of their backup quarterback nearly to the extent that the Patriots do, and it's all because of Bill Belichick and what he was able to do with Tom Brady all those decades ago. But again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Also now, because Garoppolo has had success, you think every Patriots backup is going to be great. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was really good. But again, there have been some that haven't been. Ryan Mallett was not a very good quarterback. Brian Hoyer is not a very good quarterback. They're average at best. The mere fact that Bill Belichick is signing Cam Newton says something about his faith in Jared Stidham, that maybe this guy isn't ready, or maybe that overall, this guy just isn't the guy. He's a placeholder at the backup position. And for Cam Newton, the absolute best scenario for him is to return to form and then next offseason get paid like a franchise quarterback. And even if he is a backup, let's say he gets to play well for 5 to 6 games, he can still get paid like Teddy Bridgewater or Ryan Tannehill did. It will all be based on how well he plays, not how often he plays. Like, I think if there are signs that Cam Newton is Cam Newton, next offseason a lot more teams will be interested in making Cam Newton their starting quarterback. For example, if Cam Newton only starts like the second half of the year and then ends up winning a playoff game and balls out in the postseason, I think way more teams will want Cam Newton and sign him to big money to be their quarterback. Also, another thing that baffles me is how many people underestimate the power of a player fighting for his next contract. He needs to prove he's still a star, and he has a lot to lose if this doesn't work out. It's like when they brought in Randy Moss. Randy Moss was coming off a season with the Raiders where it seemed like he didn't like football. He wasn't the same guy. We all thought Randy Moss was no longer the Hall of Famer we grew up watching, and then all of a sudden he had 22 touchdowns, and we thought he was the greatest receiver of all time. That's all it takes. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Cam Newton, but if he goes out and has like a 35 touchdown season, we will all think to ourselves, wow, Cam Newton is an elite level quarterback. It's how quickly we can change our minds about someone, and right now he is being motivated by the fact that no one else in the league wanted him. You can't underestimate that. We had a quarterback for 20 years who was driven by the fact he was a 6th round draft pick. That's what motivated Tom Brady. And now we have a quarterback who's being motivated by the fact that 29 other football teams had zero interest in him being their starting quarterback or even their backup for a multi-million-dollar deal. That is going to be the reason I believe Cam Newton will have success here. He is being driven to the brink of maybe the end of his career if this doesn't work out. I mean, just look at the fact that the team that he put on the map just had a Twitter poll question, who is the best player in franchise history, and left his name off the list. And they are picking Teddy Bridgewater over him. Teddy Bridgewater. No one in their right mind thinks that Teddy Bridgewater at his best is better than Cam Newton at his best. The team that he put on the map, led to a Super Bowl, won an MVP for, has chosen Teddy Bridgewater over him. That is his motivation. And if he's healthy, that's going to be the driving force for Cam Newton having success. He has to regain his stature as a franchise quarterback, something that he probably took for granted, and you can't underestimate how that's going to drive him to have an insanely good season. That's what I'm expecting. He has way more to lose than Jared Stidham. That's why I think he should be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots this season. We've also seen this before with athletes. There was a time where Andre Dawson, the Hall of Fame baseball player, wasn't wanted by every other team in baseball, and the Chicago Cubs signed him, and he had his best season and won an MVP. I'm not saying that's going to be like that, but this could be a similar situation where we see Cam Newton absolutely reach his pinnacle of success because he's being driven towards it by rejection. Also for Newton, this is the perfect landing spot, not just because Bill Belichick is his head coach, but now he gets to go up against the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets, teams that he probably thinks he can dominate the same way that Tom Brady did. Yes, we think that the Buffalo Bills will be the best team in the division, but they have Josh Allen, and if we have Cam Newton being at his best, he's better than him. There's a chance he's better than Sam Darnold. I mean, there's a real chance that Cam Newton can be the best quarterback in the AFC East. I don't think that's that far-fetched to say. I mean, Tua is a rookie. There's no way he's going to be better than Cam Newton if Cam Newton is healthy. I mean, this is the perfect landing spot for veterans to come and regain their form. We saw it with Darrelle Revis. We saw it with Corey Dillon. I mean, the best case scenario is these guys ball out and they end up winning a Super Bowl, and then they end up getting paid afterwards. The Patriots, unlike other teams, seem to get that an athlete isn't as motivated when he's highly paid and successful. I mean, look at what they did. They didn't pay Jamie Collins. He went to the Cleveland Browns. Then he was released. Then they brought him back and he returned to form. They seem to understand that guys are not the same when they are not motivated by that next contract. Cam Newton is highly motivated to get a next level contract from a team and to return to form and be a franchise quarterback. And the Patriots are going to take advantage of that. Are they going to be as good as the Chiefs or the Ravens? Probably not, but at least they remain relevant and in the mix, something I don't think that they would be with Jared Stidham as their starting quarterback. Another thing I want to talk about is people that still criticize him for his behavior after the Super Bowl. I think sometimes athletes don't respond well to losing. LeBron didn't shake the hands of the Orlando Magic after losing the playoffs that one year. The Bad Boys walked off against the Bulls. It happens. It shouldn't have happened. He should have acted better after losing that Super Bowl to the Broncos. Maybe he should have dove for the ball. Again, those were mistakes, but those shouldn't define his career at all. He's had a really good career, better than expected. He lived up to the hype of being the number 1 overall pick. People love to criticize him for that, but they forget to mention that he brought them to that Super Bowl. He went 15-1. He's the greatest player in franchise history, and if it weren't for him this past decade, the Carolina Panthers would have been completely irrelevant. But we talked about them on a normal basis because Cam Newton was a one-of-a-kind special athlete. And I also feel like he's one of those special athletes that's true to himself. He's authentic. He's real all of the time. And I, for one, like him because of that. I'm sorry, I don't like the phony quarterbacks that give you the corny answers. I like Cam Newton. I like that moment. He was real after losing that Super Bowl. He went 15-1 and lost the Super Bowl. How would one really react to that loss in a real way? Probably like that. Now, did he fail to apologize for that afterwards? Yes, I think he's made mistakes in the past, but I don't think you should view him as that moving forward. Get over it. It was like 6 years ago. He's a different human being now than he was then. Listen, I already think Cam Newton is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won an MVP. And again, he's arguably the greatest rushing quarterback in NFL history. But if he is able to return to form with the New England Patriots and compete or win a Super Bowl, that will cement his legacy as one of the greats. I think he has a lot to gain here. And so does Bill Belichick. Can Bill Belichick win meaningful football games with somebody under center not named Tom Brady? I think this move shows that Bill Belichick understands the importance of this season for him as a football coach. He knows the microscope is on him. He knows a lot of people are doubting that he can win a lot of games without Brady. And if he can do that with Cam Newton, again, I already think Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach in the history of football. But again, this would only cement that idea. If he wins big games with Cam Newton, if he gets to an AFC championship game with Cam Newton, this was the ultimate success. I mean, this could really end up being the steal of the offseason. And seeing how a lot of things end up going the Patriots' way, would you really be that surprised if Cam Newton has a lot of success as a member of the New England Patriots? I, for one, am completely rooting for Cam Newton's success, not only because I am a fan of the New England Patriots, because I am a fan of Cam Newton as a quarterback. He's fun and entertaining, and more than anything else, I love a good comeback story. They're so great when people make great comebacks. There's something about when an athlete has been forgotten and then all of a sudden he reminds you of how special he is. I mean, I'm sorry, that's awesome. I'm rooting for it. I think we all should be rooting for it. Patriots fans especially, I mean, come on, again, I just don't understand the blind faith in Jared Stidham. Yes, he could be special, but the fact that Cam Newton's here doesn't mean you're not going to see Jared Stidham ever. Maybe it does. If this really works out, Cam Newton could be your quarterback for the next 3 to 4 years. But again, that's the best case scenario. You should be rooting for that. You should be rooting for Cam Newton. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Head to Head Podcast. I'm Cam McKinney. There'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. So please rate, review, and subscribe.